Well, I'm going to start with quite a personal story related to money. I grew up above this building in Northern Ireland, 1970s, lived above a bank because my dad worked in a bank. But one of the first things that I earned money from was perfume I made myself from soaking rose petals in a bucket and straining it through a tennis racket to make perfume in jars that I sold outside the bank. And that was my first money that came into my hands. Now my money comes from lots of different places. I didn't put all of them on, but I work as a freelance artist, and money comes from all sorts of sources: arts organisations, foundations, the Arts Council and Creative Scotland. But there's also a lot of hustling goes on as well, not in an aggressive sense. I make money through ideas, through doing lots of talks. Through hopefully following projects that have some sort of heart to them, or sort of have a lot of passion for the sort of projects I get involved in. I also make money from my feet. I actually go and travel a lot and do residencies. I'm not a foot model or anything like that. I'm very interested in textile history and economics of textiles, and in Shetland, knitters in Shetland bartered their knitted socks for gin, and you could get 3 socks for a pint of gin in Shetland in the 1750s. So I knit the actual socks in the pattern that they would have used. I've also made work related to textiles trade in Stroud in southern England. And Stroud textiles were bartered for slaves. Basically, they were part of the slave trade. The red felted cloth that they made. So I did a project where I worked with a local mill who still produces the cloth, and made a trail of tennis balls around the museum. I've made work related to Irish economics, and this is a ghost estate. I don't know if many of you know much about Ireland's housing. This is a map of Ireland that has every ghost estate that was built during or every housing estate that was built during the Celtic Tiger, and most of them now are sort of uninhabited estates. And in response to that, I knit a money box, and the idea was it was knit in the exact shape and proportions of one of the ghost estate houses. And the idea was that you would fill it up with your money, and then when your money was gone, you could rip it out, but you had to knit it back up again to fill it with your money. I don't know if you put into YouTube Irish fucking bankers, this guy will come up. And there's a fantastic rampage of swearing where someone asks him about the Celtic Tiger and about the financial crash. And he talks about not giving your money to the banks, but storing it in a mattress or underneath your mattress. So I made a mattress cover, which was, I took an IKEA mattress cover and covered it in Irish linen and embroidered the edges in a very traditional Irish technique. Basically, it's a mattress to store your euros, so you can keep it under your bed, keep your money under your bed. I have also encouraged other people to make money. This is the knitted fish auction. There's been a big project called the Fish Exchange, which has been going on and on and on and has gone viral, where people have had knitted fish auctions and raised money for RNLI, and over £25,000 now has been raised for marine projects connected with marine science. I've also auctioned rain in Australia. They'd been drought for quite a long time before I arrived on a residency, and I collected rain and bottled it, and made a set of boutique rains for every sort of, there was aphrodisiac rain and rain for your crops and rain for your tea and things like that. And I also worked with the local community to make a shopping list, and 200 people in the community contributed suggestions to an ideal shopping list where they could suggest anything they wanted: idealistic, realistic, environmental. We sold the bags and the rain to raise money for Flying Doctors, sort of local charity. Before I turned 45, I had a midlife baking crisis, and I made 45 cakes before I turned 45 new cakes. And then we had a cake sale and invested the money in Kiva microfinance. And basically, for the last 5 years, I've been lending money to bakers all over the world. So 182 bakers have now benefited from one cake sale in Glasgow. I was artist in residence at Wigtown Book Festival, and I collected people's favourite words and then embroidered them. And then I gathered over 700 words and then decided I would sell them on eBay. And we picked 20 words to sell on eBay and had a fantastic social media sort of campaign. Contentment did really well, but Fanny got the most. Got £60 for Fanny. And we raised money for over £700 for books for a school. More recently, I've been doing projects that are much more about barter and exchange, and I did a residency in Mull where the idea was I would look at incomers to Mull and the idea about diversity in Mull, so I chose 10 people and made work for them, which was gifted to them at the end, and these were headphones that was made for a woman who liked to dance but her husband didn't, and he didn't like any of her music, so she had her own private set of headphones that were blinged up. More recently, with Atlas Arts on the Skye, I did a project where I gathered fleeces from crofters all over Skye and then worked with spinners on the island and knit socks for the crofters so their wool went back to them. So it was looking at things like circular economy and the whole idea of a sort of closed loop. And now I'm working on a project to do with St Kilda from Scotland, New Zealand and Australia. I've been looking for St Kilda. There's no St Kilda exists, so I'm looking for St Kilda and I'm making medals for St Kilda. But I'm actually physically working with coins, so working with silver coins and transforming them into medals. And I've been doing all sorts of things, etching into them. And this is a tree in St Kilda in Melbourne that's an Aboriginal meeting place. And I've basically etched that onto the surface of an English coin. I put this in at the end because what I like to do with a lot of projects is get the most I can out of a project and make projects that actually continue to produce, whether it's financially or continue to benefit the people that I'm working with. But this image can sort of go with lots of ways. The amount of money that you have coming in, the amount of work you put into projects, as we all know as artists, and that idea of keeping a balance. And I get over enthusiastic. I'm a victim of my own enthusiasm. So it often is balanced like this with a lot more on one side than the other. So thank you.